This is the brand new Epic Universe theme park, and this is me, a diehard theme park fan who couldn't wait any longer to see it himself. Now, there's a lot of Epic Universe to cover in this episode, but first, I'd like to explain how I ended up here. Ever since Epic Universe was announced in 2019, I've been dying to go to this park. Unfortunately, it wasn't scheduled to open until May of 2025, but that would not stop me from trying to get my eyes on this place. Of course, they've got the Epic Universe Preview Center with the park model that they used in the announcement video. You know, as cool as this was, I found myself wanting more. Like I needed to get my eyes on the prize. So I packed up my camera gear and headed to the park, or at least as close as I could get to the park, which just so happens to be this apartment complex about 100 yards from Super Nintendo World. See right here, this is the backside of the Donkey Kong ride. This small taste wasn't enough for me. I had to get closer. I then found a nearby parking garage and got locked in the stairwell. This is a problem. All the doors on all floors are locked. Why did I do this? Kids, don't try this at home. Then decided to go the safer route at the nearby Icon Park, spent way too much money for a single Ferris wheel ride, only to be much further away than I was before. Granted, I was able to catch them testing the new Wolfman coaster, but I wasn't going to give up. A few months later, I found out that one of the new Epic Universe hotels, the Stella Nova Resort, was opening 4 months before the park, which sounded perfect. I booked a room for opening day, checked in, toured the spacious brand new room, opened the curtains, only to find that the room was not facing the theme park. Sad, disappointed, defeated, I rang up a friend for help. Hey man, are you in your room right now?
No, I'm not in my room. Just turn.
This is so much better of a view, I can tell you that already. Cam, how do you feel to have the best view out of any other content creator here today?
I feel honored, but honestly, I paid the front desk lady a lot of money for this view.
Okay. I was not going to give up. I did have one more person I could call. Today, we are taking to the skies with some help. We are at the Orlando Executive Airport with my friend Jonathan, who just so happens to be one heck of a pilot.
My name is Jonathan. I've been a pilot for 15 years now, and I fly private jets for a living. I also own a small flight school. So this is our Cessna 172 November model Skyhawk. It's one of the most popular aviation trainers in the world. One of the reasons I want to use this airplane is the wings are on top. So if you look at some of the other airplanes, like this airplane next to us, the wings are on the bottom. And so when you're kind of tilted down or in a turn over the parks, it's kind of hard to see everything. The windows can't open, the wing kind of covers your view. But with this, once we're in flight, this window comes open all the way. Very convenient for us, right? If you're doing aerial photography or aerial videography.
So what are the flight restrictions in terms of theme parks?
I'll start with the biggest misconception. The biggest one being is that Walt Disney World has a no-fly zone. Disney has what's called a temporary flight restriction, TFR. It means that you can sometimes fly through it, or in many cases you can't, at or below 3,000 feet, right? So from surface to 3,000 feet, you can't just go through it. But if you notice, here's Disney World. They have their own little red ring here, but then you look at Universal Studios, and interestingly enough, there is no flight restrictions, right? It's actually, you can fly over it as long as you follow all the basic minimum altitude laws and you stay out of Orlando International's airspace, which is all these blue lines right here. We're okay to fly over it.
Which leads me to the question, I guess, what height are we going to be flying at today?
Universal, since they don't have that temporary flight restriction, it'll be closer to about 1,200 to 1,500 feet. The reason for that is so I can stay at least 1,000 feet over any obstacle, and that way I can keep away from people, objects, vehicles, etc., with at least 1,000 feet between us and them. And one of the considerations I have here is how close we'll be to Orlando International Airport. So it'll be no lower than 1,100 or 1,200 feet, but also no higher than 1,900 feet, because at 2,000 feet, all the airliners are coming in to take off or land out of Orlando's MCO airport.
Once John completed the pre-flight checks, we loaded in and took off to make our way towards Epic Universe. My first thought, wow, this place is massive. You know, Epic Universe is around 135 acres. For scale, Universal's Islands of Adventure is 125, and Universal Studios Florida is around 108. When I say this park is pretty much done, I really mean it. During this flight, we saw some executive/team member testing on tons of rides and some new effects testing like the globe fixture on the top of the entryway, or as they call it, the Kronos, right here. I had no idea that this would eventually be moving. As part of the main central land, Celestial Park, is Stardust Racers, a dueling launch coaster that just so happened to be testing while we were flying over. Most of this footage is played back at about 40% of its original speed. This was to better help stabilize the footage from 1,500 feet up. This coaster has rumored top speeds of 62 miles per hour. You can expect an intensity similar to Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. I can tell you right now, it'll probably end up being one of my new favorite coasters and might end up being my first stop opening day. Right next to Stardust Racers is the Isle of Berk from How to Train Your Dragon. Today they were testing Hiccup's Wing Gliders, a family-style coaster similar to Slinky Dog Dash at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Obviously not in theming, this one actually seems to be a lot more integrated into the land, weaving through the paths and water features. We were fortunate enough to catch some stunning shots of the ride around the land's entrance area. Y'all, this ride and land is going to be amazing. Again, this coaster is not going to be this slow. I had to slow it down for these clips. Dragon Racers Rally was also testing during our flight. This is a style of flat ride you could also find all over the United States. The doors were open to Mead Hall, the main quick service restaurant inside of the land's icon. I believe this land is the largest in the park, or at least it feels that way. While Celestial Park has plenty of space, restaurants, and a couple of rides, the Isle of Berk feels, at this point, packed with rides, meet and greets, 3 restaurants, and a stage show. Which, speaking of, I don't think any of you are ready for this How to Train Your Dragon stage show. It already exists over at Universal Studios Beijing that opened last year, and it's nothing short of spectacular in its choreography, puppeteering, and flying dragons. It's truly 10 out of 10, and I have only seen it on YouTube so far. One thing I was hoping to see but didn't on this flight was the walk-around robot dragon. Yeah, you heard me right. To fill you in case you missed it, recently a local Orlando news station captured a video from their helicopter of testing of what can only be assumed is a character based off of Dart, one of the children of Toothless in the How to Train Your Dragon movie franchise. Believe it or not, this is a robot, very similar in shape and build to the now infamous Boston Dynamics robot. This will more than likely be a meet and greet at the park at some point in the future. Also, in the past few months, there have been more sightings of flying dragons above Epic Universe. But for real, walk-around dragons, flying dragons, this land is everything that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge promised and never delivered on. I am very confident that this will be the land come opening day. Next up is the land I was originally most excited for, Dark Universe. This land, themed after the classic Universal monsters, features 2 rides: Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment, which is in the land's centerpiece, Frankenstein's Castle, and The Curse of the Werewolf, a spinning family coaster. On this day, they were putting the final touches on the netting that surrounds the track when it passes over guest walkways. The ride looks pretty cool. As previously mentioned, I had seen it testing a few months prior. All I'm worried about is getting motion sick because this does spin a lot from what I saw. The reason I say this land was what I was most excited for is the fact that the land is a lot smaller than expected. With only 2 rides, a couple of restaurants, and a face painting experience, I struggle to find myself spending more than a few hours here. And I found out today, a lot of that might be spent waiting in line for Monsters Unchained. Take a look at the amount of exterior queue space they allotted for this ride. I know this is going to be an amazing, one-of-a-kind ride, but I am not looking forward to these wait times. The castle looks stunning, I'm sure even more so at night with the lighting effects on the main tower. I did catch a glimpse of this about a month ago at the Stella Nova Resort, but I was kind of on the backside of the tower, so I couldn't see much. In the fall of 2024, Universal teased the animatronics featured on this ride, and because of it, this is for sure in my top 3 rides I am most excited for. Here's to hoping by the time opening day rolls around, these empty streets will be filled with fog and a couple of spooky citizens, or something like that. Next up, we have the flagship land of the whole park, or at least that's what it seems like in promotional material, Super Nintendo World. I myself have already been to the land over in California at Universal Studios Hollywood. The main difference between the land there and the one here is that it's mirrored. Kind of. The location of Toadstool Cafe is different. There seems to be a walkable second story that isn't just for a line. They've got a Yoshi's themed people mover type ride that is also at their Japan park, and the big difference from Hollywood is the Donkey Kong Country area. Unfortunately, they were not testing this highly anticipated ride while we flew over, but the water features were running, so that's great to see. I'm a little confused on where the extended line is going to be for this one, because it's going to be probably one of the longest lines opening day, but we shall see. What was really great to see is that the doors right here are likely to be the walkway to a future expansion to the Super Nintendo World, as the current construction staging area is right next door with plenty of space. And last but not least, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic Land. Universal themselves have said that the tallest buildings in Diagon Alley are still not as tall as the shortest buildings in this epic universe land. The streets also feel to be at least twice the width as the ones in Diagon Alley, which is a big improvement. While we were there, they were putting on some of the final touches on the building's exteriors. Today, it didn't seem like they were doing any sort of previews for this land either. A large portion of the Ministry of Magic is actually in this building right here. From the concept art to the actual photo comparison that Universal released, I could confidently say that this will end up being my favorite Harry Potter land at any Universal park. We'll have to wait and see how this ride turns out, but so far I've heard some pretty good things. If you've made it this far in the video, prove it by letting me know in the comments below which of these 5 Epic Universe lands you are most excited for. For me, it's How to Train Your Dragon, 100%. As our time winds down and we near the opening of Epic Universe, there are more and more announcements that are coming almost every week at this point. They just dropped a bunch of menu items from the park about a week ago. I just can't believe that it's almost here. As of the time of release, like I mentioned earlier, executive previews for the park have already started, and I could only assume standard team member previews will be soon to follow. If you have a Universal Annual Pass and are holding out for an AP preview of the park, all I will say is don't hold your breath. The ticket sales are doing just fine. The first month is already sold out for single-day tickets, which, mind you, are only available to Annual Pass holders right now. So why would they offer a free preview for people that are potentially buying tickets? I don't know, that's just me. But who knows, maybe I'll eat my words and it'll happen. Probably not though. For non-pass holders, you must buy a 3-day, 3-park ticket where only one of those days is available to use at Epic Universe. And if you're trying to get in as soon as possible, the day after opening day, May 23rd, is still open for booking, but just through these 3-day, 3-park tickets. In terms of the other parks, I could not think of a better time than now to get an annual pass. There is so much going on at Universal Orlando in the coming months. Mardi Gras, once that's done, the return of the Mega Movie Parade, Halloween Horror Nights. Well, that's a separate ticket, but you get the point. And you've got to always remember, there's a high chance that once Epic opens, the prices will jump even more so than they have already. Now, I am thrilled that I was able to catch a glimpse of the new park today, but it would not have been possible without one person. After taking a quick loop around Bay Lake to check out Disney, we did end up making it all the way back to Orlando Executive Airport, touchdown on the ground, and I could not have been happier with this trip. First and foremost, I do want to give a huge thank you to Jonathan for making this happen in the first place. It's something we've been talking about doing for the past 2.5 years. And finally it happened just in the nick of time for the park to be opening, which I don't know if I mentioned this previously, May 22nd, 2025. We are like 2-3 months away. It's finally happening, guys. Funny enough, on the flight back, we actually did pass over Universal, and I figured what better spot to do the outro for this video than right here at the parks. Thank you so much to Roosevelt's for providing my awesome threads that I'm wearing throughout this entire video. If you want 15% off your very first order, you can check that out in the description of this video. Thanks to all of my producers and pity viewers over on Patreon. This video, and quite frankly, any of my videos would not have been possible without you. If you are new to this channel, first off, welcome. Second off, this is a little bit different from the normal video that I do. For the most part, I cover Disney and Universal theme park history. If you want to check out the full history of the now defunct Twister Ride It Out ride here at Universal Studios Florida, check that out right here. Or one of my all-time favorite videos on the time that Halloween Horror Nights took place at Islands of Adventure. You can find that over on the other side. I am Ryan. This has been For the Love of Theme Parks, and I will see you all at Epic Universe opening day. I'll see you guys there. I'm so pumped! So pumped! Okay, bye.